Jealousy is a very harsh emotion, oftentimes where the root cause cannot be explained in deep detail. Are you jealous of that influencer that you hate follow for owning a dozen designer purses? Or are you upset that they live in your dream city of New York, one which you have never visited but only know through movies? Or is the true root cause of it that you work day and night like a dog in a capitalist society where the minimum wage hasn't gone up since your own parents were teenagers, and no matter how much you save, bills will always need to be paid, and they're always going to take up most of your income. So maybe because of that, you'll never be able to vacation in your dream city of New York during Christmas time and see the holiday lights and purchase that Gucci, YSL, Louis Vuitton, whatever the designer brand bag is that influencer you follow flaunts has. Are you jealous of your high school friend for attending UCLA, your dream college, and getting out of your small town? Or is the true root cause of that jealousy that even if you were able to get into UCLA, you financially wouldn't have been able to afford it due to not coming from a socio-economical background of inherited wealth? These questions are endless. With the true root cause of why our jealousy even happens and what this intense emotion will cause you to do and be irrational in your thought process, not being able to be studied easily. Blinded red hot rage has been a hot common reaction seen in movies and TV shows and even in books. But have you ever experienced that blinding hot red rage where you lose all your senses? You go into this fit of rage and heightened emotions where you actually go and harm someone, something, or even yourself. Throw everything you've ever worked for in your life just to be taken away from your family, young children, friends, to serve a jail sentence for something that you never should have done in the first place. Hey, I'm Serenity. Welcome to another episode of Hometown Horrors. Today, Ginger is behind us, and welcome to today's episode. Today, we are talking about a case from Mexico that I have painstakingly translated from Spanish into English. This is the case of two influencers, Marianne and Valentina. Well, one harmed the other in an extreme way, and we're going to be talking about how that happened and how the attacker is free now, just 6 months later. So, before we begin, I do want to give trigger warnings for the following: for violence against women, femicide, mentions of DV, homicide, stabbings, mentions of drug trafficking and gangs. And we're also going to get into the mental state and mental health of both of these influencers. So if any of these topics you believe you'd be unable to handle, please stop watching, put yourself first, and I'll see you at a later date with a different video. If I get any information wrong, please kindly let me know down below. I try to get the information as accurately as possible and use only trusted sources. However, again, things can get lost in translation. Spanish is not my first language, so translating from one to another, things tend to get lost in translation. I know a lot of times when I was translating, él and ella are he and her in Spanish, and a lot of websites would get it confused. So that is a very common mistake. So I am 100% saying I could be wrong in some of these minor details. Also, the attacker in this case, she was a minor at the time of this. So I will be using the word allegedly a lot because she was a minor. Sources will all be linked down below for you to check out yourself. Lastly, this video is an informational research study that I'm sharing for academic entertainment reasons only. I mean absolutely no harm to anyone mentioned, especially the victim and the victim's family. So grab a blanket, grab a snack, grab a drink, get comfy, and let's get into the video. They say it's easy to grow a following on TikTok. And while that may have been true in the early TikTok years of 2019, 2020, and 2021, the early years of a pandemic where a lot of the most famous TikTokers we have today grew their following super quickly and very largely, that isn't the truth today. Marianne Gonzaga was born in Mexico City, which is the capital city of Mexico. Her first video posted on TikTok was in April of 2022 when she was just 15 years old. While her internet fame did not directly start on TikTok because she had a following on Instagram beforehand, she is known on TikTok for her luxurious lifestyle content, revolves around luxury shopping, attending influencer parties and events, and posting get ready with me while dressed in designer clothing. From my research, it is unclear if she was raised with money for all her luxurious purchases that she has, and this is important because every time you do see her, she is most likely in luxury clothing brands. So it's unclear if she came from money or if her luxurious lifestyle stems from the money she earned off of social media. Anyways, all of her TikToks easily reach 200,000 views or higher. Like 200,000 is the base and then it just goes up. So her audience is super engaged. Now, Marianne has been involved in her fair share of scandals in her career. And this is kind of a short career, with the first notable incident happening in 2021, when an Instagram account accused her of harassment and defamation, along with being part of a group. chat that were using CSAM images as stickers and memes to send between people. So predatory material of children. Now, commenters on this post in the comment section, multiple claimed that Marianne threatened to kill them at one point, and one person even stated that she threatened to send her drug dealers on me to harm me. Now, of course, these are internet comments. We don't know if these are true, but a lot of people were saying that. Sometimes it's just someone jumps on a bandwagon, like, they said that to me too, they said that to me too. Other times, it could be true. Now, keep the drug dealer portion in mind because it will come into effect later when a voice note starts circulating. Another influencer named Isa Farrell claims that Marianne's Instagram page was actually stolen from another creator named Isa Riquelme. Now, both girls are named Isa. On Marianne's Instagram account, her first post was made in 2022, the same year she started her TikTok. Well, one day, Isa, the one accusing her of this, was going through her DMs, cleaning them out to conversations she doesn't need anymore, when she came across a message thread that she had with Marianne that she doesn't remember actually engaging in conversation with because the pair had never been close. They had like a casual comment here and there, but they never spoke like that. These messages were dated long before 2022, so Isa was scrolling through them to kind of see how this came about when she saw a voice note from Marianne. But when she played the voice note again to hear what the pair may have been talking about, to understand why they were having this very friendly and familiar conversation, she discovered that the message actually wasn't from Marianne, but it sounded like a friend she does have, Isa, the first Isa had spoken through two DMs multiple times. While on a TikTok live, Isa F recounted the story with another TikToker who she was on live with, claiming that Marianne actually didn't earn her own following back then, but stole it from Isa R. old account. Now, how this happened, we don't know, but that is the accusation. 2 years later, on March 17th, 2024, Marianne posted on social media that she was 21 weeks pregnant with her very first child, halfway through her pregnancy, basically. She assured her audience that her content wouldn't be changing much with her upcoming entry into motherhood, but she still would be sharing some baby content. She would still film her clothing hauls, but this time they would be more baby focused and still be doing her get ready with me. However, her social media grew very, very, very quickly as soon as she announced she was pregnant and about to become a 17-year-old teen mom. Again, she was 17. A few months later, in October of 2024, Marianne posted a video boasting about how she had just bought a brand new house in Cancun, Mexico, about 21 hours and 1,600 kilometers away from her hometown of Mexico City. In the TikTok video of hers that actually went viral, she claims to the camera, "Guys, we already got my new house," while showing off the garden, the bedrooms, the kitchen, and claiming the house was messy, full of moving boxes because they were moving in. A few days later, though, another content creator, a spiritual and self-healing content creator named Ricardo Ponce, posted a video claiming that this new house Marianne was claiming was her new house was actually his house, his personal house, not hers. And he was alerted to this happening by his wife after seeing Marianne's video about her touring their home and claiming it was her own. In private, Ricardo messaged her on Instagram about the post and claimed that Marianne immediately apologized and said, and I quote, "I went to a real estate agency and recorded content for my social media. I'm deeply sorry for what I posted. If you have any problems, I can delete it." Ricardo did state, yeah, he had problems because this is his house. And she just shared the whole layout on social media for her thousands of followers to see. And also, it's his house, his personal house. Why are you acting like it's yours? And now you're claiming to have bought a home on the other side of the country because Mexico City and Cancun are pretty far apart. And she was claiming she bought this house to raise her born baby in. And it was all just a lie for social media views that she recorded and went in and did this. So Ricardo posted the screenshot demanding Marianne post a public apology within the next hour or he would be pressing legal charges. Marianne did agree to this, but she did not issue an apology until Ricardo's video went viral and media coverage of the story exploded. Now, she then would go on to apologize in a Get Ready With Me video while doing her makeup, saying, and I quote, "This apology comes from my heart, not because I was asked to. I wouldn't post it if I feel like I didn't like it. But today we're going to sign the contract for my real new house." She was asked to post an apology though. The last largest scandal before the serious criminal case we are here to discuss happened just a couple months before the house incident when Marianne posted a Instagram story, like a series of them, of her baby's ultrasound, her unborn child, with the photo caption that her boyfriend of the time, who is extremely relevant in this case, named Jose Sad, of neglecting the responsibility of her daughter, of his pregnant girlfriend of the time, carrying their daughter. And the message on the story that she had wrote out said, and I quote, "Are you hitting me besides that dude? Don't give me shit about how unmanly I am." With the following slides being photos of the couple arguing and videos of them arguing, like recorded videos of just not them physically yelling at each other, but you can hear the audio, and it's obviously them too, and Marianne shouting at him. Rightfully, her audience was concerned because they were thinking their favorite influencer was in a domestic violence situation at this time with her partner and her baby's father, and she's pregnant, and they were worried about what they could do to help get her out of that. I mean, it's very concerning, especially when someone reaches that breaking point that they're posting like that on social media. A welfare check is usually what happens. Now, Marianne went silent, and then a few days later, she posted to her social medias confessing that she exaggerated the whole thing. She's not in a DV situation, and she's perfectly fine. And she did it because it was a social experiment, because she was working on a partnership to bring awareness for violence against women. Violence against women is a huge issue in Mexico. It's an issue all over the world. Severely a huge issue all over the world. It's a true epidemic. But in Mexico, it is a huge issue. And she said she had this whole thesis of posting these stories, of seeing how her fan base would support her as a woman who reports gender-based violence on social media. Now, rather than running a poll on your social media when you have hundreds of thousands of followers like that, putting up a submission link about your own story, gathering data like that, interviewing people who have been in DV situations, she faked being harmed herself for a reaction. I also don't know if that sponsorship collaboration ever went through. Now, furthermore, like I said, violence against women is a huge issue in Mexico. Mexico is actually the country that coined the phrase and created the criteria for the phrase femicide, since they have a huge problem with it. All over the world does, like I keep saying, but Mexico, they're the one that put this forward. I have a video on going into this deeper that I will link about the femicides in Juarez, Mexico. Now, femicides is defined as a criminal deprivation of the life of a female victim for reasons based on gender. The murder of a woman or a girl is classified as femicide based on at least one of these 7 criteria being met. Those 7 criteria are evidence of sexual violence prior to the victim's death, a sentimental connection, effective or trusting relationship with the perpetrator, and the victim's body being displayed in public. That one doesn't happen all the time, but it is part of it. So a few months after Marianne gave birth to her daughter, who would be named Emma, she separated from the baby's father, Jose, and moved to Cancun. Hence the whole fake house situation. She was moving to Cancun anyways. That is all the background you need to know on Marianne Gonzaga before we get into what she did. So the granddaughter of the late telenovela starlet actress Ileana de la Garza, model and socialite influencer Valentina Gilabert, comes from a very well-known family in Mexico. Her father is a professional photographer and the former artistic director for the very famous singer Luis Miguel, along with her cousin Santiago Jimenez, being a famous Mexican football player playing for the Netherlands team Feyenoord. He's a famous footballer. Valentina built her social media platform by lip-syncing to popular songs, doing Get Ready With Me and lifestyle content, and showing you behind the scenes of her modeling career. She models mainly in Mexico and in France, so she lives in both countries simultaneously, splitting her time between the both. So a couple months after Marianne and Jose split up, he began a relationship with Valentina, another famous influencer. The pair would share photos of each other like all couples do, activities, date nights, mirror selfies. So a timeline a news article put out reports 5 months after Marianne and Jose broke up, he began dating Valentina officially 2 weeks before the attack happened. 2 weeks. Now, that's not to say they weren't hanging out as friends, as kind of romantic interests, nothing maybe without a label, but that is the timeline. Now, some internet netizens claim that during this time period, Valentina would post on her social media kind of sly remarks, and you know when you post something and you're very discreet of who you're trying to take a dig at, so you don't say their name, but you're posting something. Netizens were claiming Valentina was posting things like that on her stories and would taunt Marianne and say unkind things about her infant daughter in online posts. While none of the news articles or news reports that I found for this research mention this, it was all over TikTok when I went to for clips. And what I mean by that, it was in comments on the social medias on both of these girls' pages, and on creators reporting on this case mentioned the taunts. And I can't back it up because I didn't see any of them myself. Personally, the taunts from Valentina, but I do want you to know that is what is said to be going on at that time. Also, in a video from July of 2025, Valentina did refute this claim, saying that she never said anything negative about Marianne or her daughter online or in daily life. So she doesn't know where this rumor came from. I'm not sure if that's true. It could be, it could not be. So stay with.
Y vengo a aclarar bastantes puntos al respecto. Uno, nunca metí ninguna relación, jamás. Entiendo que ustedes tienen ciertas justificaciones desde lo que pudieron ver o desde lo que pudieron escuchar, pero no quiere decir las cosas así. Cuando esta mujer dijo en su TikTok, mi novio va a pasar por nosotras, no se refería a mi novio, se refería a su nuevo novio. Cuando yo dije que para demostrarle que yo no estaba con su expareja, me refería en el coche, en el lugar en el que estábamos. Yo no me burlé de nadie, no provoqué a ninguna persona y yo nunca lo orillé nada. Yo no convivía con ella y para este punto en mis planes estaba poder llevarnos bien y tener una convivencia sana. Nunca llegamos a convivir. Nunca sucedió. Ustedes solo están buscando justificación para una acción tan brutal. Entonces claramente es muy fácil culpar a la víctima. Pero no estamos juzgando personas, estamos juzgando acciones. Entonces estaría bien que mucho antes de opinar o de querer agredir a una persona, consideran un poco que no tiene el contexto completo. Y que yo no debería estar aquí dando justificación.
What can be confirmed by multiple sources is that Marianne would frequently comment on Valentina's Instagram posts with emojis such as the heart eyes, clapping hands, way before Valentina started dating her ex. Now, it's unclear if this was before or after Jose was seen with Valentina, before they were officially dating, but some reports say it was way before. On February 5th, 2025, Marianne traveled from Cancun to Mexico City under the guise of visiting Jose and people from her hometown. It is unconfirmed where her daughter was at the time, but it's not widely believed that she brought Emma with her. Marianne arrived at Jose's apartment in the upscale neighborhood of Park Prejugal Residence Complex, where Valentina was when Jose and another person left the apartment, leaving the two women in the apartment alone together. Jose and this other person left to go to a convenience store real quickly together. Marianne reportedly stabbed Valentina multiple times with a sharp object found in the kitchen. Specifically, she was stabbed 14 times, repeatedly. Valentina was in shock because the attack was happening, and the stab wounds were aimed mostly at her torso, her neck, her chest, a couple in her head and in her back. But mainly, the worst part of the injury was she had put her hands up to stop the attack, and it resulted in her hands being stabbed, where the worst damage would come. According to police reports, officers responded to an emergency call when they found 18-year-old Valentina Gilabert with severe injuries to her body and bloodstains all around her. First responders immediately transferred Valentina to a local hospital in the area, where her multiple stab wounds to her chest and neck would be treated and all over her body. There is a photo of Valentina in the ambulance that has been black and white, like the black and white filter was put on it, that has circulated on the internet. And it's because the photo is put in black and white because at the time of the attack, Valentina was wearing a white t-shirt, but her white shirt had turned red with blood. So the photo was put in black and white, and her shirt now looks black. And that is to not be so graphic because the shirt was soaked in her own blood. At that exact time frame, Valentina's family was alerted of the attack. Marianne had fled the scene of the crime, but officers did find her in the early hours of February 6, 2025, in the same sort of vicinity area of the apartment. They quickly apprehended her into custody to charge her with aggravated assault, which was the preliminary charge. They would investigate and then come back with other charges if needed. Now, keep in mind, at the time of this crime, Marianne was 17 years old, so she's a minor. Because of so many details in this case that are not public, minors usually are afforded this privacy when they commit a crime where their name or their face will not be pressed to the public. They're still juveniles. They're afforded this right of privacy. But because Valentina and Marianne are large influencers, those details are not able to be kept under wrap. A lot of the news reports have blurred out Marianne's eyes. You know it's her, but they blur the eyes. While Valentina was fighting for her life in the hospital, authorities began to theorize why the attack happened in the first place. They speculated it was a crime of passion and jealousy, an obsession revolving around Valentina dating Marianne's ex-boyfriend and baby daddy. Now again, because Marianne was a minor at the time, these are just speculative theories. We don't know the place's true charge, reason what they thought. This is just hypothesis off of netizens' comments. Valentina quickly was sent to a high-level care in the hospital, the ICU, while her loved ones waited with bated breath if she'd be able to pull through, and what her exact condition was and what the stage of her life was. She actually would be put in a coma and have multiple surgeries. The following day, on February 6, 2025, her father, Ernesto Gilabert, spoke to a journalist named Maxine Woodside about his daughter's attack and to give updates on her current condition. He first clarified that Marianne's attack on his daughter had left Valentina with injuries to her lungs, chest, face, neck, head, hands, and back, stating, and I quote, "The most dangerous thing is that she was going to lose her hand, probably in the sense of not being able to move it because they cut all the tendons. There was even talks of amputation. It was badly damaged, and her hand was going to die, and it took 4 or 5 hours of surgery. She received about 13 or 14 stab wounds, of which 2 were to the left lung, 1 in the middle of her chest, another in her right lung, 2 in the front of her neck, another in the nose, some in the head, and many in the left hand. The hand we're worried about. Last night, she had several wounds in her lungs. She had internal bleeding. They put a catheter in her heart to relieve pressure. She was in a very serious condition. 3 specialist doctors arrived, 1 for the heart, 1 for the lungs. They performed interventions, sedated her, incubated her. She's in intensive care. She's in a coma. Ernesto also wanted to make it crystal clear that because his daughter was in such a serious, life-threatening condition, that she remained in the ICU while they're trying to keep her alive, and doctors were seeking help from the public because they needed blood donations to help her. She lost so much blood. That 4 or 5 hour surgery that Valentina would not be the last that she would endure during her hospital stay, especially because she was 18 and is already having a blood transfusion at that young age just to keep her alive from the trauma and wounds to her body. That is something she's going to have to deal with for the rest of your life. A blood transfusion really takes a hit to your body. So now she's going to be living not only with the complications of the wounds and the attack and mobility, but also a weaker immune system. The journalist then informed the very worried father that there is a high possibility of her daughter's attacker being released without jail because she was 17 at the time of the attack. And I quote, "They're telling us that Marianne is 17 years old. Her parents already want to release her, the attacker, when the victim is in a coma. We hope the prosecutor's office won't allow it. She's at risk and could die." And concluding the interview, Maxine did inform Ernesto that Marianne's parents allegedly are already calling for their daughter to be back in their custody and released from jail, and they plan to fly her to Spain to avoid any charges and fleeing the country. Now that's just a rumor. After the news broke on Valentina's attack onto social media, widespread outrage for justice and prayer for her recovery spread across the internet. Family, friends, and multiple other fellow public figures and influencers expressed their concern about Valentina's condition and her current medical state. Quickly, the hashtag Justice for Valentina gained traction on multiple social media platforms, with netizens demanding a thorough criminal investigation and to hold Marianne legally accountable with charges over the attempted alleged murder. While Valentina was fighting for her life in the hospital, an odd reaction was actually happening online. You know Newton's law of motion, where every action has an equal and opposite reaction? Yeah, that was happening online. Well, some websites report that at the very beginning of February 2025, Marianne had just over 148,000 Instagram followers and 386 TikTok followers. So that means just 5 days into February, before the attack, those were her followers' statistics, like the beginning of February. And February is the shortest month of the year. Now, by the end of February 2025, 23 days later after the attack, her numbers grew exponentially while she's in legal custody, accumulating over 700,000 followers in the shortest month of the year. On TikTok, Marianne saw a 31.7% increase of followers on Instagram, with 195,000 followers totaling, and a 21% increase of followers on TikTok, with 500,000 followers at the end of the month. And I will mention those numbers have just keep going up since February. She had gained almost almost 1 million followers after allegedly almost murdering another influencer. And people couldn't understand it because it was allegedly a premeditated attack. This was not a self-defense situation. Now, at the same time, there was a voice note of Marianne circling the internet, claiming that she had very close ties to Mexican drug traffickers and gang members, who she could call at a moment's notice to do any dirty work she wanted. 10 days after the attack, and after being admitted to the ICU, on February 15th, 2025, Valentina was released from the hospital on very strict orders to consult with her medical team and every single one of her new specialists every single week. She needed to attend physical therapy and not miss a single doctor's appointment during her recovery. She posted on her social media, with the help of her parents and legal team, a statement of gratitude for all the care she received from the ICU doctors and all her specialists while her time in the hospital, along with her family and friends who were by her side during the whole thing. And also, she put a special thank you to the people who donated blood for her during her hospitalization. So she was actually released into the care of her parents on strict recovery regimen, including weekly hospital checkups, apart from her specialist appointments for the issues I mentioned earlier, to monitor her recovery. Her statement stated, and I quote, "Thank you to everyone who was concerned about me and my health, to the doctors who helped me recover, and to everyone who donated blood. I feel better and confident that everything will be fine. I truly appreciate all the support." Her legal team also emphasized that they are very committed to ensuring their client receives true justice in this case, and they are going to 100% continue to cooperate with the authorities investigating the attack at the time. Now, at the time of Valentina's hospital release, the case was being investigated by the Attorney General's Office of Mexico City. A little less than a month later, on March 11, 2025, Valentina's sister Chloe posted the first true public sighting of Valentina since the attack on TikTok. It was a TikTok they were doing together. It's a very simple, joyful video of the pair celebrating Valentina's recovery process, where you can see Valentina standing next to her sister with her right arm covered from the tips of her fingertip all the way to her elbow in a medium soft cast. And the caption on the video was "La Gorita te amo mucho," with the pair lip singing to the song "Come and Get Your Love" by Redbone. Now, gorita in Spanish means chubby one or fatty. It's a term of endearment that you get when you're a child if you are a little heavier than your other siblings or you like food. Now, Valentina still to this day has to attend physical therapy to gain the full mobility in her body, specifically her hands. But this update, coming a month after being released from the hospital, was very positive for her followers to see. And within 24 hours, Chloe's video with her sister had garnered over 232,000 TikTok likes, 1,200 comments, and about 5,600 saves, with fans very happy to see Valentina standing and good spirits, seemingly. And honestly, watching the video, which will be on screen, it looked like Valentina was doing well in her recovery. But if you've ever gone to physical therapy for any sort of injury or after surgery or whatever it is, you know firsthand that most of the time, even after you've graduated from physical therapy, in a couple years to help with mobility, you're going to have to go back to physical therapy. Physical therapy is not a one-time thing you do once. When it comes to serious injuries, it's something that you cycle off and on for the rest of your life. Now, meanwhile, Marianne was undergoing legal proceedings and charges while being detained at a juvenile justice center because she was a minor. Mexican law only has allowed minors aged 16 to 18 to serve up to only 5 years in prison for specific crimes such as homicide and femicide, which are the very serious crimes on that end. However, since Valentina, luckily, thank goodness, survived the attack, Marianne could not be charged with attempted femicide, a charge that actually doesn't legally warrant a prison sentence. Mexico's prosecutor office, their official charges was actually intentional bodily harm, endangering life, which holds a possible sentence up to 5 years in prison. Again, because Marianne was 17 at the time of the crime, she was sent to await trial in a specialized center for adolescents called Centro Especializado para Mujeres y Adolescentes in Telpan, about 40 minutes outside of Mexico City, which houses underage girls who are facing legal proceedings. In May 2025, Valentina announced to her followers that she was slowly rebuilding her life, getting back to her normal routine, and she actually announced that she believed it was the time to return to her university studies, go back to college, which she actually is studying gastronomy, which is the relationship between food and culture, the science of eating, and cooking styles of different regions, and different traditional dishes in different regions. That very same month, Valentina gave her followers the very first in-depth glimpse of the scars she had endured, posting a TikTok video revealing the scars on her back, her chest, right side of her scalp, the right side of her body, her chest, and her nose. And this sparked an outpouring of love and support from netizens. However, a few commenters did accuse her of healing too fast, her scars not appearing too deep, and her family lying about her condition of her hand not being in a mutated state, because when her father spoke to the press, he did say that she had multiple torn tendons in her hand, and there was a possible amputation on the table. Valentina did respond to those comments with a video showcasing the mobility of her hand being very limited and how obvious the scars on the back of her hand are, crediting the mobility that she does have at the current time to physical therapy and doctors' ongoing care. Then in July of 2025, the case took a completely unexpected turn when Marianne Gonzaga was released from jail after serving only 5 months in prison. Valentina would release a TikTok video explaining the situation, stating that both the families and their lawyers and the Mexico prosecution team came to a legal agreement that Marianne's sentence of 2 years and 24 days, which she had been sentenced to, could be served under supervised release with multiple conditions that needed to be met. Valentina was the key person into allowing the prosecutors to issue Marianne a legal pardon, allowing her to get the plea bargain that would gain her the release.
Yo no le otorgué el perdón a nadie. Yo la perdoné personalmente, mentalmente, no la perdoné legalmente. Ella sigue teniendo una condena de 2 años, 8 meses y ahorita creo que 19 días ya, en el cual tiene que cumplir con ciertas cosas que le pidió el juez, que se acordó con sus abogados, y si no las cumple, ella regresa a internamiento. Esto no se cambió para que ella pudiera salir libre. Esto no se cambió por algo más allá que la prisión preventiva. Y no me vendí. Simplemente es una reparación del daño que hubiera salido en libertad o no, se tenía que pagar. Se tuvo que hacer un acuerdo con los abogados suyos y míos, porque no todos los menores tienen que pagar reparación del daño por ser menores de edad. Entonces se llegó a este acuerdo en el que ellos iban a pagar la reparación del daño y a ella le iban a dar una condena menor a 5 años. No que iba a salir libre. Eso no lo decido yo, no lo decían los abogados de ella, no lo decían mis abogados, lo decía el juez.
The terms of her release state that Marianne had to undergo psychological treatment, maintain good behavior, and pay Valentina a large sum of reparations for the damage that she caused, which amounted to 750,000 pesos. On top of that, she has a different set of special conditions she has to meet to be allowed to see her daughter and have her daughter back unsupervised to make sure Emma would be safe in her mother's care. Now, for reference, 750,000 pesos is about $40,000 in USD, and $40,000 is a lot of money, but it is not enough money to live on for the rest of your life, especially not with lifelong health conditions stemming from 14 stab wounds. I do understand the conversion rate is a little difficult on both sides because the amount between both countries gets you far in certain situations, but the $40,000 is just for reference. But again, no matter what, it's not lifelong money, especially with Valentina being only 18. Also, it is worth mentioning that Mexico does not have 100% universal free healthcare, but they do have programs to provide free or low-cost healthcare to the country, but there are still costs related to the healthcare. So no matter what, Valentina is going to have to pay out of pocket a certain amount of some money towards her recovery. In that video that she posted, she made it abundantly clear that release and pardon that she helped give her attacker was not for legal reasonings, but rather personal. And she also wanted to call on to people's mental health, the responsibility social media had in the situation, and to bring justice to real-life victims of assault. Furthermore, she made sure to be crystal clear to her audience that Marianne still has a sentence to serve, just on free probation, not behind prison bars on the other side, along with very strict agreements she has to meet in order to uphold her end of the plea bargain. Any sort of shortcomings or failure to do so will result in Marianne returning to jail. When netizens heard the news, especially before Valentina explained the details more, there was a bunch of reactions on social media. Some people thought that the fact that Valentina could forgive reflects on an act of reconciliation and a step towards her emotional healing journey. For others, they believed this case is an example of social media impunity, that if Valentina didn't have a social media following and a famous family with multiple famous members, that the resolution to the crime would be completely different. The debate had gotten so far as to actually calling for legal reforms to be made, review and rework the juvenile justice process, and how cases and penalties and prison sentence in cases such as this where there's serious violence and bodily harm, homicide and femicides, all those that fall into the same category that are committed by minors minors need to be reevaluated for the prison sentence time, especially because social media heightened everything in this case and it went very viral. Also, the complications of both these women having each their respective own large audiences, both being wealthy social media influencers, and how the case became viral and everyone is watching it in real time. There's also the complexity that some people would be disappointed in Marianne even going to jail and serving a long sentence, and others relieved that she did serve a sentence, albeit not behind bars. A source close to the Mexican prosecutor's office told a local news station that the two parties had come to a mutual agreement because in the eyes of the law, Marianne wasn't charged with attempted murder. It is viewed as such though, especially since it is a miracle that Valentina is even alive. Laws in Mexico when it comes to minors also happen to be very complicated and have to take multiple different precautions since the assailant was a minor in this case, but the victim was a legal adult, and the law isn't crystal clear on those procedures. They said this to the media, and I quote, "The prosecutor sought to reach certain agreements bringing all parties together. There was attempted murder, but the law doesn't cover the crime if the assailant is a minor. It also precisely was because of aggravated injuries that endangered life. That way she could be in custody for 5 months. Minors can't be held for more than 5 months." The two women saw each other for the very first time in a courtroom and bursted into tears apparently, where Marianne immediately apologized to Valentina. Outside of the courtroom, a news organization did stop Marianne for an interview, where she, in the interview, only discusses herself and what led her to commit the attack. She claims that she learned that her ex-boyfriend was in a new relationship. It affected her severely mentally, which led her to do the act. And while her actions were not justified, the pair had already moved past it, Valentina and her. That's what she said, in her perspective, that they're past the attack. Marianne also told the interviewer that there is a whole legal process that she has to go through in order to get her daughter Emma back into her custody. Marianne also spoke about the time in jail where she feared every day that she'd be beaten up by the other inmates, and she was constantly scared about the food and being mistreated in jail. She also warns people not to ruin your own life over one person, namely her ex Jose and his actions of dating someone else, and not to do what she did, but she did it without thinking. She was also seen smiling in interviews with a casual demeanor, and that week alone after these interviews went live, Marianne grew 30,000 TikTok followers in that week.
Está tras 3 semanas de salir del Centro de Reinserción Social.
Marianne Gonzaga tiene 17 años, una hija, un par de cientos de miles de seguidores en redes y un historial criminal. Hace 3 semanas dejó el Centro de Reinserción Social para Menores, en el que pasó 5 meses por acuchillar a Valentina Gilabert. De aquella noche sangrienta, prefiere no hablar.
En el momento de ahorita no me gustaría responder porque pues todavía es una situación fuerte para mí y pues la verdad es algo que me gustaría como todavía pensar más, trabajar más en eso, pero próximamente podría responder esa pregunta.
El día del ataque, Valentina estaba acompañada de José Said, el padre de Emma, la hija de Marianne. Ella dice que en ese entonces aún eran pareja.
Yo quería como la imagen de la familia perfecta, de los novios perfectos, y pues me daba mucha pena que la gente pensara como eso, ¿no? Sentí una gran decepción, ¿no? O sea, tanto pues por mi expareja, por los planes que teníamos a futuro, por todas las pláticas que tuvimos para arreglar la relación, por tantas promesas que hubo en cierto momento, ¿no? Y pues no muy lejanas al día que pasó, o sea, eran pláticas que estaban en enero, o sea, recientes.
Marianne fue detenida después del ataque. Cuenta que se sentía sola y con miedo. Nunca imaginó que sus acciones llegarían tan lejos.
Y pues ahí llego muy asustada. Yo la verdad pensaba que era como, pues igual como en las películas, ¿no? De que con el uniforme naranja, la comida en el piso, sin agua caliente. O sea, la verdad yo llegué súper asustada de que me iban a pegar llegando, me iban a maltratar.
Cuenta que lo más difícil de estos meses fue estar lejos de su mamá, sus hermanos y de Emma. Su ahora expareja, José Said, nunca llevó a la bebé a que conviviera con ella, a pesar de que estaba permitido.
Cada semana pedía, rogaba, suplicaba y no pude verla. Ni una sola vez.
Cuando Emma crezca, ¿le vas a contar?
Sí, y yo creo que es algo muy importante para mí porque al final se va a enterar y prefiero que se entere por mí que de la boca de otras personas o ella viéndolo por sí misma, porque es una situación que yo no quiero que ella viva, que jamás pase, y yo quiero que aprenda de esta situación.
Marianne, ¿de qué te arrepientes?
Ay, no sé, no.
Prefiere hablar de responsabilidad, de lo que hizo y de lo que dice. La llevó a hacerlo.
Pues el no perderse por un hombre es la cosa igual que más aprendí, ¿no? A no perderte, a no pues a no cambiar tu vida, no echar a perder tu vida pues por una persona, ¿no? Porque al final sí, jamás se va a justificar lo que yo hice y jamás voy a decir que es algo mínimo, lo voy a minimizar, pero pues finalmente yo lo hice pues sin pensar las consecuencias.
Hace unos días se reunió con Valentina en una cafetería. Platicaron durante hora y media. Para ella, ese fue el final de la pesadilla.
Me contactó, acepté vernos, primero estuvimos hablando como por mensajes y así, y en persona la verdad como que nos liberamos mucho, ¿no? Como que cerramos como pues cierto capítulo que tuvimos. A Valentina le deseo pues todo lo mejor del mundo, ¿no? Que pueda encontrar paz, tranquilidad, que pueda seguir su vida llena de amor con las personas que la aman, que la quieren.
Marianne Gonzaga.
Now, very recently, social media erupted on August 25th, 2025, when a video was posted of someone sitting in front of a wooden staircase in a black designer Loewe zip-up, a green Van Cleef necklace on, and a full face of perfectly put-on makeup. Marianne returned to TikTok a month after her release from jail. And in this video that's pretty long, she expressed gratitude for getting a second chance at life, claimed to be undergoing personal healing journey, and seeking professionals for her health while resuming her career as an influencer. In this long video, Marianne does the thing that most influencers do when they're apologizing for something, and it's not explaining what she's apologizing for. She namely just goes on for a couple minutes saying how she's going to be better for herself and her daughter, that there's a legal process she needs to go through to get her daughter back. She doesn't say what she did, so if you had just this video just popped on your screen, you wouldn't know what happened. You would just think it's another influencer apology. She also explains how she's going to go about things moving forward. The only hashtags on the video are her name with the caption, and I quote, "Today I understand that it is not about erasing the past, but about learning from it. I will not waste the second chance I have in life. I am working on myself, looking for professional help, and building a different path for Emma and for me, because real change starts from within the heart."
Todos, soy Marianne Gonzaga. Sé que hace mucho tiempo no paro frente a una pantalla para poder hablar con ustedes, pero aquí estoy. Sé que para mucha gente mi proceso no es algo fácil de entender, o incluso el hecho de que regrese a redes sociales es algo que ha generado críticas o incluso ha llegado a incomodarlos. Pero igualmente aprendí a la fuerza y con dolor que no puedo vivir dependiendo de la opinión de los demás. Al final, solamente yo sé lo que viví, lo que enfrenté, lo que pasé, lo que aprendí y lo que todo esto a mí me dejó. Y con todo eso en mente y con un proceso legal atrás de todo esto que sigo cumpliendo hasta el día de hoy, es que decido retomar mi vida con las cosas que me gustan, los deportes, la educación, hobbies, todo lo que yo solía hacer antes. No tengo por qué detener mi vida, por qué parar lo que sigo haciendo, por qué detener mis metas, detener mis planes, si es algo que hoy en día estoy pagando, voy a seguir pagando y lo estoy haciendo con todo el compromiso. Y sinceramente tampoco estoy aquí para que me aplaudan, para buscar aprobación, para ganar likes. Es algo que hoy en día sinceramente ya no me interesa, ya no me importa, aprendí a ya no vivir de las apariencias. Y sinceramente yo les comparto esta historia porque fue algo muy doloroso, muy grave y muy fuerte, que yo creo que al final les puede dejar una lección o una historia. Y pues no quiero que nadie repita mis errores porque sé de primera mano cómo duelen, cómo cuestan y cómo marcan de por vida. Y sobre todo no quiero que este caso sea algo que se normalice o se justifique, porque como ya lo he dicho anteriores veces, es algo que no tiene justificación, no es algo que se minimice y no pueden justificarlo. Entonces yo no estoy a favor de que este caso sea algo que se normalice en redes sociales, de eso sí no estoy de acuerdo. Y si hoy en día decido contar este proceso es porque sé que al final tengo gente que me ve como una influencia. Realmente sí tengo seguidores que siguen viendo mis videos, que me siguen apoyando. Yo no quiero que me idealicen, yo no quiero eso. Yo solamente quiero que vean que los errores tienen consecuencias, los errores marcan de por vida y no solo afectas a una persona, afectas a muchas sin tú solito darte cuenta. E igualmente, aparte de este grave error, de esta grave situación, de este caso, quiero igual contarles que las segundas oportunidades sí existen y se los digo yo porque hoy estoy viviendo la mía. Y sí, las segundas oportunidades son buenas, pero depende de ti cómo decides tomarla, si para el bien o para el mal, si para regresar a lo mismo o para crecer como persona. Y yo, con mis consecuencias, hoy en día sigo con la cara en alto, con todo el compromiso, haciendo lo que se me pide, lo que debo de cumplir, educación, deportes, terapia, todo eso que en algún momento explicaré, y pues yo sigo asumiendo todo eso. Algo que igual pudo llegar a generar críticas fue que en una entrevista yo dije, no quiero cargar con la culpa, quiero cargar con la responsabilidad. Mucha gente lo entendió mal, no quiero cargar con la culpa y con la responsabilidad, mucha gente entendió eso. O mucha gente dice, ¿por qué no quiere cargar con la culpa? Yo me refiero a la culpa de que en el interior de no poder dormir por la culpa, todo eso es algo que sinceramente yo quiero deshacerme de eso, pero sí cargar con la responsabilidad y las consecuencias de mi acto. Y pues en esa entrevista yo hablé muy bien, sinceramente yo dije muchas cosas que me hubiera gustado que hubieran escuchado, la verdad la recortaron, la verdad pusieron pues partes que a ellos les convenían más que a mí, y pues sinceramente si llegara a salir la entrevista completa me gustaría que lo oyeran. Y pues bueno, igual al final de esto, retomar las redes hoy es una decisión mía, no porque una cuenta me diga que no puedo seguir con las redes sociales lo voy a dejar de hacer,
sigo afrontando las consecuencias, como ya lo dije muchas veces, y hoy las voy a retomar con otro propósito, que no sea aparentar, normalizar, justificar, no. Yo lo hago con el propósito de que esta historia, que este caso, esta situación, sea algo que para el ser humano lo ayude a entender que los errores tienen muy graves consecuencias, que tu vida puede cambiar de un día a otro totalmente, un giro 360, y pues a no cometer cosas, no perderte por una persona, y pues la codependencia que tienes hacia una persona igual puede ser muy cañona. Entonces yo quiero como hablar sobre todos estos temas, ahora es con otro propósito. Y pues ya finalmente pues era mi decisión el hecho de retomar o no retomar redes sociales, pero lo que yo espero es poder transformar algo que fue doloroso en algo que pueda servir como una lección o un aprendizaje. Al final del día va a haber 1000 opiniones diferentes, comentarios divididos, pero hoy yo entendí que mi camino es mío y yo soy la única que recorre ese camino y no las opiniones ni las palabras de las demás personas. Y si finalmente decido compartir videos o contenido, será mi decisión, ya que algo que aprendí es que es mi camino y yo estoy recorriendo mi propio camino, entonces son con mis decisiones, ya no van a ser decisiones malas, impulsivas, que tienen consecuencias, sino va a ser algo con un propósito bueno. Y pues igual yo estoy recorriendo ese camino para crecer, sanar, aprender, reconstruirme, no para nada malo. Ustedes no saben qué está pasando conmigo, no saben ahorita cómo es mi día a día, lo que estoy viviendo, lo que estoy pasando. O sea, dicen que no me voy a victimizar, no me estoy victimizando jamás, no voy a justificar, lo he dicho muchas veces, pero simplemente les estoy contando pues como todo lo que esto me dejó y pues todo lo que pasé a través de esta situación y ya. No hay que normalizar este caso o este tipo de casos porque finalmente no es algo que haya estado bien. Y ahora mi razón más grande para crecer, sanar y reconstruirme es mi hija Emma, que ojalá prontamente pueda tener. Igual genera mucha crítica el hecho de si pueda o no pueda tenerla. Eso ya es un proceso legal donde el comentario de una persona no implica si me la van a dar o no. Es un proceso legal, con estudios, con todo. Entonces eso es algo que pues terminará viendo. Y pues sí, esperemos esté bien. Mientras tanto yo estoy trabajando en mí lo mejor que puedo.
The comments are all in support pretty much of Marianne, some stating that she shouldn't have stabbed the victim, but Valentina shouldn't have been taunting Marianne on social media. Others claim that her ex Jose is to blame, and one that Marianne did like personally, and you can see that the creator liked it, says, "I love you, be happy, and live." Now, it's up to you to think if that is an apology or not. People not in Marianne's comment section, who are personally in her comment section sympathizing with her for the attack, and just are in other people's comments who are reporting on this case, criticizing her pretty harshly for resuming normal posting activities and going back to her influencer career so soon after being released from jail, only a month later. And criticize that, is it okay for her just to continue to post online? Since there is nowhere in the plea bargain saying she cannot post online about it or resume her life as an influencer. And it does call into question because that is her job. Does she lose her job? But if it was a different job, like a retail worker or something, you would lose your job for having a criminal record now. But again, she was under 18, so most times when you're under 18, your criminal record can be expunged when you turn 18. Now, at this time, currently, she now is 18, but at the time of the crime, she was 17. And these netizens do call for the normalization of violence on social media now and how the influence of media speculation can influence judicial matters. They said Valentina almost loses her life and Marianne gets to return to posting Get Readies with me not even 6 months later, gaining almost 1 million followers. The critics specifically wonder how in a country that has very high rates of violence against women, the fact that a young woman with so much influence viciously attacks another woman, the internet forgives her pretty much, rewards her with almost 1 million followers in less than a year, and then she gets to return to posting her content and her job all within 6 months. Again, that is not to say that Mexico is the only country that has high rates of femicide being a huge issue. It is everywhere in the world. I can name multiple countries, but it is a huge problem in Mexico that has been in conversations for decades, and there is not a lot of legislative changes. Also, it's worth noting that some netizens have called into question if Marianne was a man, would he get as much leeway? Because this was woman-on-woman crime. If this was a man harming a woman, would she even be allowed to be let out? Now, the debated violence on influencer culture and spaces continues on, especially when you factor in how online exposure and having your relationship highs and lows being broadcasted in real time can escalate real-life tensions. You know, most videos are just a tiny minute of influencers' day being posted. Whether that clip is 10 minutes, that's only 10 minutes of their day. It is not real-time posting. However, when your relationship is so public, and people do get attached to relationships, and then you break up, and then your ex goes on to date another famous influencer, you have people coming back to your comments and alerting you of that. And it's a simple fact that many influencers break up with partners, and the person moves on, they move on to dating other people. But in this situation, it's extremely public. So people are saying in Marianne's situation, her ex and baby's father is with another influencer, and people are flooding her comments with news and snide remarks. Does it hide in those emotions that she was facing, especially being a couple months postpartum and so young? But does that excuse the attack? There's also that pressure of retaining a good public image, the emotional intensity of a breakup, seeing your ex with another person and that another person being the same job as you. Can it create animosity in this fishbowl of a pressure cooker that explodes into a volatile situation? It's not to defend Marianne, but it's different factors and the psychology of it. Currently, Marianne is 18 and Valentina is 19, so they're both legal adult age. But since she was a minor at the time and she was famous online, the privacy she would have been afforded in this case goes out the window because everyone knows her name. Now, I do want to discuss something that I kept running into during my research, and it was the comments on both of these women's accounts, and not necessarily the videos reporting it, because I did see the people who are reporting it, the comments were in favor of Valentina and how it never should have happened. There was a couple that were on Marianne's side, and it's even weirder that people are taking sides in this situation because it is a criminal case. There even is the idea that if Marianne had served the whole sentence behind bars, would people have turned on Valentina even though she's not responsible? They came to her saying, would you feel safe if your attacker was let out of jail? That's what happened. But it's not on her. She's not responsible for the legal proceedings. She's not the lawyer. She's not the Mexican government. So what I wanted to discuss is in the Latinx and Hispanic culture, namely Mexican culture, because that is what I'm familiar with, there is this common issue, trope, experience, whatever you want to call it, called the teen mom and la toxica culture. In many Mexican households, you are highly encouraged to have kids at a very young age, namely when you are a teenager. And to get married young or just to have that kid out of wedlock to the boyfriend you've been dating for a couple months, maybe a year. College education kind of goes on the back burner, especially for girls. It is, you have to stay at home, cook for your family. You don't get a college education. And that's not to say that that happens in every Mexican household. I'm actually seeing a trend that I would love to research on a lot more people, young women, Mexican households going to college and pursuing higher educations at a higher rate. But I'm just saying this is the normal life situation. The amount of young girls who have babies in high school is very normal. Now, pair that with the fact that some reports show as soon as Marianne announced her pregnancy, her audience grew extremely quickly, bigger than she already was, at a time where she's 16, 17 and pregnant. And it would keep growing as she was pregnant. And then it got even bigger after she gave birth. So her following kept growing, and it hinged on the fact that she was becoming a teen mom. And it's very common to grow an audience when you are pregnant because people love mom content, they love pregnancy content. It's a whole niche. But as soon as she announced she was pregnant, it seemed in multiple of her videos, she would use pregnancy hashtags, mommy blogger hashtags, those. But she became a mom before she was even old enough to get an unrestricted driver's license in Mexico. That is not a permit. The permit one you get with the supervision of your parents, meaning the parent has to be in the car when you're driving, that you can get at 15 in Mexico. In Mexico, in order to get a driver's license, that means like you can drive yourself around without anyone else in the car. You have to be 18. She was having a whole child before she was even legally allowed to drink or drive an automobile unsupervised with anyone else in the car. And that is not to excuse the baby father's involvement in this case because he does have a hand in protecting the child and the child's upbringing. That is just to put in perspective how young she was and making these decisions of the attack because allegedly it's premeditated. The second part is the la toxica culture, which is a term that translates to toxic girl, toxic woman, and it's used to refer to a female significant other that plays into the machismo culture, where the woman embodies traits that can be considered toxic or unhealthy in a relationship, such as possessiveness, abusive language, jealousy, short temper, screaming fits, and controlling behavior. As you can imagine, la toxica falls into misogyny, but it also is a term girls use to describe themselves. I've seen people with bumper stickers on their car that say la toxica in a sort of bragging way. On a minor level, it can be used as a casual nickname between friends, family, like we talked about with la la gorita, but at its root, often when it's used in romantic relationships, it's used to describe toxic behavior. And it's passed off as like, she's Latina, she's just being la toxica. It's the Latina sexualization and stereotype at the same time. It's also very normalized to use in Hispanic culture. What I can see from Marianne's comments, many people were just justifying her behavior using la toxica criteria. The amount of people that I saw saying, yeah, you shouldn't have harmed Valentina and I'm sorry you did it, but she was asking for it because she was dating your ex, or she said XYZ about your child, or she did XYZ, and she was kind of asking for it. It's truly alarming. I'm talking thousands of comments that say the same thing on every single one of her videos. But there's also the amount of people in Valentina's comments saying that Valentina healed so quickly, so Marianne didn't even cause that much damage, so why is she even getting any jail time or having to serve time? Her scars don't look that deep, which can I say, if you've ever had any sort of surgery that cuts the bone to fix a broken bone, those scars, they don't look deep, but they're cutting multiple layers of skin and then they heal over. Scars don't have to look deep to be deep. And I don't know if I'm just missing something in translation completely. That could be what's happening here, and that's on me. But the amount of people defending Marianne in the comments, the weird thing is that they're doing it in these two women's comments, not on other videos discussing the case, in the comments of where I'm telling you, many influencers, they see every comment. They do. It's kind of unavoidable to see your comments. And also the amount of comments saying that Valentina only wanted Marianne's money, so that's why she allowed Marianne to get out of jail, is alarming too, because we did speak about earlier that the money, the reparations, is not going to cover the cost of care for the rest of her life. And if it does, great, but it's not going to pay her life for the rest of her life. It's not money to live on. Hopefully it can cover a lot of her therapy, but it's not going to cover all of it. People are accusing Valentina of using the money to buy designer items, and I think something is getting lost because we spoke about Valentina coming from money. Her father was the artistic director for Luis Miguel, one of Latin music's hugest artists. Her late grandmother was a very famous telenovela star, and her cousin is a famous footballer. She comes from money. And I wonder if it's truly something that I keep saying is lost in translation, so please let me know down below if I am getting something wrong. But from what I can see, it seems to be some sort of parasocial behavior of defending your problematic fave that people love to do on the internet, especially when we discussed Marianne's previous misdeeds. This is not the first time she's done something controversial, but this time she harmed someone for life. So I have been waiting to make a video on this case since I learned about it in March of this year, but it is an ongoing case to this day. There are constant updates even as I'm filming this, but also there are legal proceedings still happening. Something I chose to leave out because there is such limited information on it is now, as we speak, as this video goes live, there is another intermediary hearing because Marianne had an accomplice. Now, remember earlier when I said she fled the scene after stabbing Valentina? Well, a woman named Anzen, Marianne's best friend, who seemingly is very friendly with Valentina online, was arrested as an accomplice. She was friendly with Valentina beforehand. And she is the one that hid Marianne in her apartment while police were looking for her in her house. And she also lied to Valentina where Marianne was at during certain times prior to the attack. Audios of the conversations between the accomplice and Marianne and other people is going to be played in court. I have no idea how old Enzan is, but it is said that Enzan was actually the one in love with Jose Sad, who was with Valentina at the time, and her best friend, Marianne's ex, and baby daddy. Allegedly, it was Enzan who put the idea into Marianne's head about Valentina being a problem, so to attack her. This is very limited information here I have on the hearing, so as I'm filming this, I don't know much. Recently, Valentina has been sharing recovery videos on TikTok and her journey on her recovery, with the most recent video explaining what exactly you feel when you're in a coma. That's the last one I saw while I'm filming this. So I will link her page down below for you to follow along if you wish to. And it actually is truly inspiring to see how not only is she making a recovery from her trauma, but also being vulnerable of what she experienced and sharing it for all to see. She does have a playlist on her TikTok where you can just go through everything she said regarding to this case. She's trying to take back the narrative of this case. Now, I did debate posting this video because there is more information coming out as we speak, especially because Valentina keeps dropping like little tidbits that are important in her TikToks, but I'm sure she's going to be posting her continued journey and story for a very long time, so you can go follow her for that information. And also don't worry if you don't don't speak Spanish because TikTok automatically auto captions the translation in your preferred language, so you can follow along. She also does repost any videos regarding her case by other creators who are making updates, so this case is not going away anytime soon. Hi, so I'm cutting in to say that there has been some case updates as of editing this since filming this earlier in the week on Valentina's, and she is posting on her Instagram that she is going to try to change the law on minors who commit crime and what they're responsible for by sharing other people's stories. And also she is still with Jose, the boyfriend that is the ex of Marianne's, that she clarifies in a post. Over on Marianne's side, she went back to posting like normal. From the apology video, which was the last thing I mentioned she posted, she has now posted back to normally vlogs. She has turned her story into that she's advocating for herself and second chances. She's doing story times on her time in the junior girls prison. Now, what I will say is the reason that I wanted to talk about this update is because the video that's making her go viral in Mexican TikTok is that she is upset that she's not getting any brand deals. Now, keep in mind, she returned to the internet on August 25th. She hasn't really been out of jail for more than a month and a half at this point. She got out in July, and baby Emma turned 1 in July. From the time that I was writing out the script, it's been like 2 weeks. I finished it the weekend before this video came out, and I went back because I had screenshotted at the time of my research each of the girls' profiles, any information I needed, but I went back to see maybe if follower counts changed it or if they posted anything that I thought was important, and well, they both have. So with Marianne, I wanted to discuss, after seeing that video of her crying about not getting brand deals, she said in that video, if brands don't work with her, it's considered discrimination in her eyes because that's how she makes her money. To say this is interesting because influencers, most of their money does come from brand deals. From when I initially screenshotted her page during research, she had no bio. Now at the time of recording this update, she has a bio that says she doesn't read any comments and she's growing and sharing her journey, which seems to be like the direction she's taking her content now. And also she has subscriptions, which means at the minimum you pay her $3 USD a month in order to comment on her live videos and get exclusive content. So she is profiting off of that. Most people have subscription for when they go live a lot and they don't want anyone like who is a hater talking in their comments. At the least they're getting the $3 even if you're saying something hateful. Now, furthermore, she took out her link tree in her bio, but I had it from my original screenshot, so you saw me pull it up. And in this link tree, she has her brand like website for collaborations and then a link to her Instagram. I went through it, which is what you're watching me scroll through, and I think this is really interesting. For the purpose of this just to be in English, I let Google do the automatic translate, but of course it's not going to be perfect because it's just an automatic translate. You can see that most of her brand deals actually stem from her daughter Emma and baby product reviews. They're not necessarily just her. She has 40 brands listed that she has partnered with in the past, and 90% of them are with the baby, I would say, which is interesting because she's the one doing interviews compared to Valentina going around on podcasts and outside interviews from the courthouse. And in this interview, she said the number one thing she regrets about her actions, they never actually discussed what she did, but her actions, is that she gets a second chance, but she's very sad that Emma was taken away from her. And that's been very hard on her, which of course she is a new mother, but also her actions did have consequences. So just scrolling through this page of everyone she's worked with for brand deals and why you might want to work with her, it's interesting to note that besides most of the brand deals coming from her and baby Emma, this is updated very recently because the bottom photo, which is one of the last photos you're going to see, is a photo of her when she got out of court. She was taking mirror selfies, and there is a shot of her being interviewed from outside the courtroom, and she's showing this that story views on Instagram, how much views she gets on average. This one has about 1 million views, and that is because it's one of the first stories she posted after getting out of jail and when news broke that she was free, which rightfully people go and flock your pages when you're in some sort of controversy. That explains the high views. Another one is her outside of court that she's showing her selfie that is high in views. And what's interesting is she also has her rates for brand deals with her on this page, and the highest thing on her page is 120,000 pesos, which equates to about $6,400 US. And on average, remember, she's listed that she's worked with 40 brands. So it's interesting that the thing she is on TikTok, like the second video after she returned from from her apology is, brands not working with me is seen as discrimination. There's nothing in her plea bargain of that she cannot return to her job because her job is influencing, but keep in mind an influencer's job is to influence you into buying things. If brands want to work with someone who does have a criminal record, whether that's expunged or not, or just has a not so beloved public appearance, that is up to them, of course. But that is the biggest thing she's complaining about on her social media at the time of filming this update, okay? I'm sure the second I post this video, more is gonna come out. Anyways, the last thing I want to show is that as I was scrolling through this page of her brand deals, I was trying to see each post. She has a post that I find pretty interesting of, it has 1 million views and it's under the million views section, of her and the baby's father, Jose. It's a mirror selfie in an elevator. I don't know when this was posted, but it says props to mommy and daddy because they officially broke up. And then it says something about Emma underneath it in pink text. That was kind of hard to read through. So she's posting kind of in not like a braggy way, but like be proud of us people. We broke up and we're still good friends, acquaintances, whatever you want to call it, or her and her daughter. Along with on this page, there are multiple photos of her pregnant and brands she collaborated with at that time, especially with the ex Jose in the campaigns. Also, like I said, this obviously is recently updated because there is a section that says she's starting and growing and that she's so grateful for having a second chance. So it does seem like very quickly she went and edited this page to get her brand deals because it is very, very recent. That is the update. I mean, think about it how you will. Take from this whatever you want to take from it. Lastly, we did not delve into too deep how this is going to affect baby Emma, but to some extent, it does seem Valentina did agree to have a plea bargain for Marianne because of the baby. Marianne already missed out on 5 months of her daughter's first year of life, and we don't even know if she'll be able to be there for her daughter's first birthday. So whatever, it is allegedly a pre-planned attack, but this fit of rage, whatever it is, took her away from her child for 5 months or longer. And was it worth it for that? Furthermore, the little girl is going to have to grow up and know that her mom did this. Eventually, either her mom states she's going to tell her what happened and hear it from her own mouth, but also if she doesn't, you can Google your mom and find out yourself. And also there is the added fact that her mom harmed one of her dad's girlfriends. How does that relationship between the two go forward? And if it's going to affect her upbringing, her ability to make friends when they learn who their mom is, and even when she gets, or if she gets Emma back, who's to say that baby isn't being posted all over the internet again like she has been, raised in that negative shadow of her mom's actions. So Valentina sadly isn't the only person who has to live with scars for the rest of her life and prolonged injuries, but also Emma to an extent as a result for her mother's actions for attacking her dad's girlfriend at the time. So who knows, maybe if a lot more information comes out, I'll do a second video to follow up to this one, but that is all the information I have on this case as of now. It is a doozy. So let me know your thoughts and opinion on this case down below. Yeah, I don't even know what to say because I've been following this case for months and oh my gosh, there's just more information constantly coming out. Do you think Marianne should have been released from jail? Do you think people are justified in defending her? I don't know even what to say. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. All my socials are linked down below if you wish to follow me. And as always, as a palette cleanser, a little mood lightener, the doggo picture today, Nova joined us mid-video, is going to be this picture of Nova. Isn't she cute? Oh, I love her so much. She loves a nap. All right, that's all I have for you. Love you, minute kisses, jumping stupid, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.